Good morning, everybody. It's 1:04 a.m. And didn't try to get online, but it's streaming is it's not the same as plugging in. You kind of like have a river and a stream, and the stream gets into a bigger river. It's like a flood of electrons. Yeah. Anyway, I think I made it. I made it on YouTube. Facebook was there for about 38 seconds. I put a notice on Facebook that I was going live and in color. But, it's not easy being queasy. So I'm over here on the right of middle, of course, as usual. And, turn down. Epidemic sound instrumental down just a little tiny bit. So, I imagine 1.56 or 7 billion with a B people watching the FIFA soccer. Holy mackerel. I mean, you hear all the this and the that and the pregame show and then the pregame of the pregame and, oh my God. 3 o'clock, live, 3:06. I think they actually kicked the ball. I mean, I don't know how much you guys know about Jimmy, but I've had professional photographic equipment, digital professional photographic equipment since 1992 maybe. 24 years, 25 years. Yeah. Oh yeah. The camera cost $25,000. Each battery was, like $800. Can you imagine? And of course, you're going to need a couple extra batteries. So 3 times 8 is $2,400. And you're adding this to 25,000. And then, of course, you have the memory cards, which was in megabytes, like 100 megabytes, 200 megabytes for the same thing, $600, $700, $800. $2,600 worth of those. So that's 5,000 to the 25,000. That's $30,000. I'm in. But let me tell you, and that was a 6 megapixel camera. 6. 3,000 pixels by 2,000 pixels. My date thingy here. How many megapixels is this sucker? Oh God. That's only, it's 1100 by 1100. So it's not much. Anyway, I've taken a lot of soccer. The USA Soccer people took me with them on their European tour in 2002. Yep, had my digital camera and too many lenses. The 100 to 300 push-pull zoom that is the soccer zoom of that decade. Now they have one that's like 100 to 400 or something like that. And I think it's a twist, which doesn't matter. It's real smooth, and you want to get in tight, or you want to get in. Soccer's a tough thing to photograph. And of course, I learned, and of course, I had, Daniel went up through, soccer as a kid, so Brennan couldn't quite do it because he didn't have the lung capacity. He had allergies, this and allergies that. He had the same crap I had when I was a kid. He was just a little tougher. I couldn't, I got on the soccer field for 10 minutes, I was over. I just, I'm panting I couldn't get enough air. My lung capacity was terrible. It's not exactly fantastic today with me being in my 80s. Yeah, in my 80s. God darn it. Yeah. I took pretty good care of myself, so I can't exactly complain. I did all right. But this soccer, I tell you what, now I've seriously watched, the officiating, the play, how you play, what offsides is, and and the Spanish team was so dominant for the entire, it was what, an hour of play at 90 minutes plus, that's an hour and a half plus an extra half hour, 2 15-minute periods. Wasn't sudden death, it was whatever it is. And, 1-zip, and it stayed 1-zip. And it scared me to death. I figured, I was, in a sense, rooting for Spain. They were, the telecast underdogs. And Argentina, they won this and they won that, and they're going to pulverize. And I figured, oh boy, this is going to be terrible. Well, guess what? Didn't happen. Spain so dominated. I've never seen. I shot hundreds of thousands of images for soccer, all kinds of age groups. And believe me, when you get over like 16, soccer is serious business. So you don't have to be 25 to be good in soccer. They have a high school graduate that, just one of the younger soccer players. Down here, maybe this kid right here. I forget who it is. But let's see. So there are 15 showing here. Well, you got some substitutions, that can happen. It was magnificent. It was the most, this was a perfect example for professionals and parents and players, to understand when they see this replayed or played for the first time or replayed for the second or third time, how even though with the score being 1-0, Spain totally dominated. They had actually 20 shots. They took over 20 shots to the goal. You know how many Argentina did? 0. It was 20-0 at one point. Oh, God. And the goalie, the Argentinian goalie, actually blocked, like 11 goals. The biggest, when it was 8, it was a world record. Well, it went to 11 times. The Argentine goalie stopped a scoring opportunity situation. The other, to get to 20, they take a shot and it would go, over or the side or something, a clear shot. And I mean, I was screaming at the TV, shoot, shoot. It was an exciting game. I mean, the score was, like 1-0, but there was so much action in it, and unfortunately, I guess normally, is that Spain totally dominated the offense. I mean, time of possession, had to be 75%. 75-25. I mean, I never saw.
15.
We'll have to see what the autopsy is. They'll do an autopsy, tonight and tomorrow. The sportscasters will dissect this, in a way, so you'll know what's. Yeah, but this is one of the headline images that came out of ESPN. Which is this was broadcast all over the world. They're holding up the trophy, a weird looking trophy. Yeah, this must be some kind of porcelain or something or other. And gold leaf plated. It's not solid gold, that's for sure. You can see the bottom. But it's these gold medallions is something that these players will obviously never forget. I think it was 16 years ago they won. This is the second time they've won. Spain's a serious country, in the world of soccer, as is Argentina. Anyway, I thought that was pretty good. I have to say I was happy with the way it turned out. Yeah, I'm sure I have my listeners, both of you. They're gone. I'll never see them again. Yeah, well, that's too bad. I don't know the qualities of the players and the team, and for all the various reasons for or against. Just as a professional photographer that has seen thousands of matches through the viewfinder of a professional Canon digital camera. Yeah, I mean, a variety of different digital cameras. I have an R1. They don't call it an R1, they just call it a Canon EOS R. It goes R1, 2, 3, 4, 5, R5. Yeah. I think yeah. So the 5, I believe, is the 45 million pixel camera. It is spectacular. But you know what also is spectacular? This is my iPhone. They have been taking, professional people, not myself, have been taking pictures with the iPhone and with the Canon camera to determine which one is better. Now, can you imagine going to a professional shoot with your iPhone, saying, okay, you're going to get $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 for 2 days' work. I'm making this up. And you show up with an iPhone. You have to have the other camera hanging around your neck for the hell of it. Now, you may shoot with the iPhone, but you better have $5,000 worth of crap hanging around your neck, or else they're not going to hire you back. Now, take a couple pictures just to help, because they do take good pictures. The dynamic, matter of fact, I can't even say that anymore. It used to be the dynamic range with the bigger pixels and all. No. The marriage of the software package and the hardware, the miniaturization, is so spectacular in the iPhone 17 Pro Max. That's what I have. I mean, you take a picture and it's like, I take food pictures like crazy. Every time I have food dining out and the thing looks really good, the plate that they put in front of me, I take a photo of it just to have it in my catalog of different photos. I've got 117,000 shots on my, here, I'll show you. I'll go right here. Oh, about. Hit the about. There's the number. 17,000. See in the top? Or middle? It says Network AT&T. I got 37 songs, 671 videos, and 117,000 photos, 509 applications. I've got 1 terabyte of total storage, and I've only got 1,700, what's that? No, 175 gigabytes left of that terabyte, which is essentially 1,000 gigabytes. So I got 175 gigabytes out of 1,024. I think it's 1,024 gigabytes. Yeah, the system takes up, 20 gigabytes. That's nice. Anyway, that's what's going there. I got the Bluetooth and the Magic Keyboard. When you take this iPad, which you can see right here, here's the back of the keyboard. You can see the keyboard, right? Yeah. And I just let there's 3 little dits on the back here. You can see the right here. You can see the dit, and there's dit right there. The magnetic attraction of the iPad to the back of this keyboard connects the dit, and my entire keyboard now is coded into the operating system of the iPad, so it operates completely. Yeah. This is like a miniature computer, like a miniature laptop. There's very few things it can't do. One of them is it can't broadcast this show. The software I have is made for MacBook only. And I beg them, please come up with a version that will run on the iPad Pro. Maybe you cut down on a couple of features. It's got to be worth it to people, self included, to pay up a little bit so I can operate remotely, easily, without dragging the MacBook, which isn't bad. I mean, it's not terrible, but I'll tell you what, there's nothing like the iPad. Why not? Why not have it run on iOS? The operating system of the iPad. But, it's like 101 is 2 in my book. Anyway, so I'm going to my photographs. Scotty Scheffler, that's a picture of him, you can hardly see him. You can see a little, he was basically, apparently there was some kerfuffle about the shampoo stamping down the big grass when he was just happened to be walking around. And his foot was right in front of the ball or behind the ball to make it easier for his club to chop through. Yeah. And Scotty Scheffler would hear nothing of it. He's played with them often. They've had putting contests, chipping contests. I mean, they play together. They're co-professionals, so to speak. They're separate. I mean, there's no financial connection between the two of them. But when you're in the club, when you're in this I mean, he's, he's 100, 200, 300. He's a half a billionaire. Who knows? With all his endorsements and everything. He's making over 100 million a year. He's done that for 4 years. That's 400 million. Now I analyzed, seat of the pants, analyzed, back of a bar napkin, analyzed. No spreadsheets here, folks. What he brings home. So if he wins, $2 million, he only gets $1 million because he's got to pay taxes, and he's certainly in the 37% tax bracket. And then he's got to pay his caddy. So you add that up, so that's 37, 47, if he's paying him 10%. I'm just making that up. And then you got all your limousine fee, your jet fees, your hotel, your food and beverage and other stuff, because you stay there for like 5 days and travel, expensive. So you'd be lucky if you keep half of what you make. So if you walk away with $827,000, you're lucky if he gets 400,000 is what ends up in his checkbook, because he's got to pay everybody, and his coaches and his caddy. Okay, it's expensive. So he'd be lucky if he brings home 50% of what he makes. So anyway, the only reason I mention that is because when you're in the club, when you're in the multi-$100 million club, and you have your I wouldn't call them Secret Service, but you have you have to have a certain number of people protecting you from crazies that want to come up and throw, a bag of rocks through your window. I mean, they're great. They're people that are just nuts out there, and you have to have a security detail. Basically 24/7. When you start making a lot of money, you can get kidnapped and there's a ransom and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just, there's no end to how your imagination can go wild. I guarantee it. If I won, if I was, at this age, all I'm going to do, I have to get hit by lightning to make anything serious. But, so I'm just going to show you. I've done this a few times. No one won. Now this is, we do not promote any lottery stuff. What I'm promoting here is a psychological, tool called psychocybernetics. You can look up a book. You can get it. Let's try to find it on Amazon. Let's see if I can do it audio. The book, Psychocybernetics. Bingo. There it is. Yeah. Whichever one of these suckers is the oldest. I read about this a long time ago. Here it is, $11. You can have one of your very own. You get the audio book, paperback. Look at that. Let's get a bigger looking picture of that. Psychocybernetics. We do a print screen of that. We don't make any money by promoting these The things that just happened to fly through Jimmy's head. But that's what I did. You saw it live and in color. Bam. Product image, Psycho-Cybernetics. I'll just leave it right there for you. Yeah, by Maxwell Maltz. I read it. And one of the exercises, it's kind of like an exercise. One of the exercises, that you do is, and the one thing I did, I remember as a kid, I'm selling, color TVs.
It's 1:30.
And I'm thinking to myself, no, if I'm going to be, if I'm going to be a real manager of something, managing people or managing things, what Maxwell Maltz suggests in somewhere in this text is that you imagine with incredible detail, what your, what your office would look like. I mean, exactly. What kind of furniture would there be? What would be on your desk? What kind of stapler would you have? How about the pen? The pen you actually have in your hand. Yeah. Just doing a little digital enhancing, so it makes it easier for you to see this book, Psycho-Cybernetics. So one of the other exercises you can do is I happen to be tracking, not for any predictive reason. I've created a spreadsheet out of my own personal time. I have an Apple program called Numbers, and you can create Excel type spreadsheets with numbers, or if you have a Windows kind of computer, you can do it in Excel. These are columns. Whoops. Now these are the column headings. So I just happen to grade out the prior statistics. Now, recording all this stuff, there's no predictive nature to this spreadsheet. In other words, these numbers right here, the winning numbers, they've been literally copy and pasted out of this. I did a copy and paste out of this. Yeah, that's, there it is. And then I copied this photo and I pasted it into the spreadsheet. So it would look like this. No, not that one. Let's get the favorites. Yeah. I got so many pictures here. There you go. So the only number that I type in the spreadsheet is the 707. The Florida Lottery Mega Millions people. They have, I don't know who the heck they have as staff people, what kind of degrees they have or don't have, or, anything about it. But someone is predicting based on the current volume of ticket sales and the carryover ticket sales they have, because this is a rollover. You'll notice on the very right edge of this statistical presentation, Remember, we are not NOT. Let me get my disclosures, and I have disclaimers, disclosures, warnings, notices, and cautions. Yeah, watch out. The internet is dangerous. Don't fall for get rich quick schemes. Number 3 there. Do not wager money on lotteries, okay? We're not promoting lotteries. We're not paid by the lottery system to promote whatever the heck they do. The chances of winning is so slim. Just consider it a contribution to the educational fund of the state of Florida, because it's a 290 million to 1 shot that you're going to lose. Forget about calling that the winning odds, although that's what they call it. That's your losing odds. That's 290 million to 1 reasons why that ain't going to happen. So 290 million to 1, that's almost like every person in the United States of America would have to buy a ticket, and somebody, may be the winner, Anyway, so so these numbers are not typed in. So there's no application, there's no subroutine or something that is visualizing or digitizing this 2234. This is literally a cut and paste job of that piece of that image that I showed you before. This right here. I literally did like this and did a print screen. Came up like this to get rid of the green, and then I came down from the bottom like this. This is exactly what I did. Not to the millimeter, but it's pretty close. Bingo. I checked. There's the check mark. Saved the photos. So now I got 2 of these floating around here somewhere. Recently saved. Yeah. So there it is. Yeah, I have it again. But watch, I'll copy it. You see the arrow up next to the heart up here? That's an invitation to do something with this image. So I'm going to press that box with the arrow. And down here, lower left, it says copy photo. I'm going to copy it. So now it's in the clipboard. Copy and paste, it's in the clipboard. Now we're going to open up numbers. So I'm working on my rent. It's that time of year. My lease is up in October. Okay, so you can see the second one. It says Mega Millions Lottery. The July 2026. We open that one. And this should say, there it is, 707 million. Now remember I told you it's cut and paste. So I'm just going to touch this box right there. That box. Because I'm going to paste it somewhere. Now, I already have it up there. So this is just a demonstration. So now I'm just going to hit paste, which is I touch it. See where it says paste? Allow paste. Bingo. There it is. That's how I did it. I am not typing numbers. I am not painting colors or any of that stuff. I'm going to hit the backspace. There you go. Because we really don't want to do that. It's just a demonstration. This is my actual spreadsheet. Here is the annuity if you wanted it. Let's go all the way across. Whoops. The 30 payments. The one dangerous thing about fooling around with the spreadsheet with touchscreen is you can louse it up with your fingers. There you go. So in this case, with these payouts that I've estimated to add up to 707 million. It actually adds up to 707 million, and it's 541,000 too much. So we just take it out of the last payment. If this was the official lottery, anything, which it is not. If the numbers are red, they've been underpaid. I mean, here it got as close as $240, and this one it's 541,000 over. So we would just reduce that. We would just say, if I was the lottery official, which I'm not, that $43 million payment would be reduced by 541,000. And so why is it not on the money? Well, it could be. It all boils down to this number right here. I'm going to touch it. It's 10,000,006. Or the mathematical question is, if you were going to pay someone 707 million over a 30 payment, 5% growing annuity, you notice the column headings, what would that initial payment be? And if that's the initial payment, then each subsequent payment would be 5% bigger than that initial payment, and so on and so on and so on. That's why you see, 10,000,006, 11,000,001, 11 million. But notice I'm rounding it to the nearest 1,000, it appears. Let's touch this one and see what the rounding is. So, no, the keyboard. No, I'm trying to look at the cell contents of this payment. There it is. It's rounded to the nearest 1,000. Yeah. Up or down? 49 or less goes this, and 50 goes up. So because 50 is bigger than 49, your likely error is going to be too much instead of too little, because 50 is larger than 49 when you're rounding. Now, I could do this to the dollar and to the tenth of a penny, and then I'd be real close, yeah. But you can't pay tenths of pennies. So if I did this to the penny, which I could do, I could change all the rounding, and it would come out, very similar. I don't know if I'm just going to make a copy. I'm going to duplicate that, yeah. So I have an exact duplicate there, so I'm going to go back and do the other one. So I'm going to do this to the dollar, round it to the nearest dollar. So I have to actually go to the equation. There we go. And instead of -3 down here, I'm going to put 0, essentially for no rounding. Let's see what that looks like. Hit the check mark. There we go. So now we're to the nearest dollar. All right. Now let's see. So likewise, I'm going to change this to the nearest dollar also to make that 0. 0. Check mark. All right. What's this one? That's 0. What's this one? -4. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this one right here, copy it, paste it, paste it, paste it. I'm just going to paste it all the way along. Copy and paste. I've already copied it, so now I'm just pasting it, and basically pasting a formula that says the number before me, I'm going to be 5% bigger. 17, 18, 19. Uh-oh. There we go. 17. Paste it. Paste it. Paste it. I can tell it's pasting. Whoops. How come I'm... But you notice the numbers are changing quite a bit because we're rounding to the nearest dollar instead of the nearest 10,000. We got a couple to go. No, this is not it. Copy. Paste. There we go. And I'm going to make the text color black. So all the rest of this numbers are black. There we go. All right, there we go. So now you can see, what does this column caption say up here? There we go, all the way to the top. Oh, jeez. No, I don't do that. So if you can do a print screen and expand that. That's about as big as I can get it. The difference of the net present value compared to the jackpot. Okay, that's what this is. The difference of the net present value compared to the actual jackpot that is published. The negative result is an underpayment. The positive result is an overpayment. All results except for 0 are due to statistical rounding errors. There you go. So the reason why they vary is because half a penny is, I just did this 707 one. And you see it's actually, it's an $18 underpayment. So if I was the head lottery guy, which I'm not, I've never even spoken to them. You would just change the last payment by $18. Now, if I did this, if I changed all the parameters so it would include dollars and cents, pennies, like 25 cents, 28 cents, and round it up and round it down to the nearest penny, then this number would, would shrink even further. It might, it might be down to, 10 cents one way or the other. So you can see the black numbers there. See how, look at all every position, 11,173,433. I mean, how crazy is that? So the initial payment is 10,641,365. Yep. Now, you'll notice below in the July 24, I've just said, you know what? Let's just say no one wins on the 21st. And then Friday might go up to like 730 million. And then the one on the 28th will go to 760. And maybe at the end of the month, it would go to 800 million. I just did those for the hell of it. I mean, someone may very well win this because it's the 36th drawing. And after a while, sooner or later, someone's going to win it, even though the odds of losing are so huge. It's over 290 million to 1 that you will not win it. But It's still, if you do it over and over and over and over and over again, sooner or later, someone, it's like getting hit by lightning. Sooner or later, you're going to get hit by lightning. Anyway, so I just, being the math guy I am in a university faculty, I teach, I've been teaching for 20, for decades, all kinds of different topics. I try to share what I've learned. What the hell? That's like giving, it's like giving. So when I do a print screen, I select, so now I'm going to get out of, so here's my lottery. This is the one where I didn't change the rounding. So it was the nearest 10,000. Yeah, because if you're telling somebody just for the hell of it that a $707 million, can you imagine $707 million? If one person won that, the lump sum would be $308 million. Except for the fact that Uncle Sam is going to grab 37% withholding tax. They have the right to go anywhere from 24 to 37%, I've recently read. So since I have no big deductions that I can say, hold on a minute there, IRS. No. I would immediately get spun up to 37% tax. That means 63% would be after tax. If 37% is the tax, then you subtract 37% from 100%, you get 63%. You take 63% of 308, you get 194 million. You call your local banker and say, sweetheart, I got lucky. Yet I won the $700 million lottery, and they are going to be depositing a one-time ACH credit into my checking account, $194 million. Are you willing to accept that kind of a deposit? It's just an ACH, DDA, no holds. No way, baby. That is cash. And you could call the lottery people and verify that it's actually going to happen. And if you don't want to take it, I'll find a Bank of America or somebody else that will take it. So, you want me to be on hold here for a minute? This is not too complicated. I'm going to make a $190 million deposit. You're a big bank. Well, your branch is going to get bigger all of a sudden. And then I'm going to give it away to some to my kids who also have TD Bank accounts. I mean, this story can go on and on. I mean, it's all a bunch of bullshit. Yeah, it's just psycho-cybernetics. Just imagine if you could be so lucky. This is not selling lottery tickets. This is psycho-cybernetics. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to think how do I explain this? And this is what, gosh darn it, this is what psycho-cybernetics is all about. You imagine, there you go, Maxwell Maltz, get this book. It's an easy read. You can read it in 2 days. Get the digital edition. Get the edition that you can read on your iPhone or your iPad. It's 10 or 15 bucks, whatever. It's worth it. No matter what you're doing in life, whether you're trying to improve, your business, trying to improve, your relationship with other people. Develop compassion and self-respect and forgiveness. Set and achieve worthwhile goals. Now, actually, winning a lottery is not a goal, but it's the matter of using your imagination. If you just did, okay, what would you do with it? I mean, it's a good exercise for your brain. It's not going to happen, per se. I mean, so there's no sense in getting all, bent out of shape. There's 290 million reasons why it isn't going to happen. So we're just playing around. So now, if you accepted the the annuity, you'd get 10,641,000 off the top. Okay, that'd be your first payment, and then a year from today, if today was a winning day, then a year from when you got that check or deposit, you get 11,700,000. And then a year you get 11,170,000, then 11,730,000, then 12,300,000. That number is 5% bigger than that number. This number is 105% bigger than that number. Every year it's 5% more. It's like an automatic 5% raise for 29 raises. Your last payment's like 40 million or something. So if you're a young couple and it's not a crazy thought to go ahead and accept the annuity, because, in a year and a day, you're going to get 21 million bucks, before tax, by the way. You got to pay tax on that. Now, the $194 million number, what's the column heading say? Go up to the top, look at the column heading. It says the lump sum payout after federal tax. So that's after the 37%. So if you're in a no income tax state like Florida, you'd end up with $194 million in your checkbook after all federal taxes. That'd be an ACH credit. Either it's, whatever bank will take it. And believe me, they'll love to take. Now some little banks can't take it because they don't have the capital. You have to have like an 8% capital ratio. I'm making that up. I don't know what the capital ratios are, but if it is 8%, they got to have, $8 million laying around. There's 16 million bucks laying around in additional capital to support that deposit. But big banks, like TD Bank and Bank of America and Morgan Stanley, that's a bank. That's essentially a banking concern. It's not a traditional commercial bank, but a lot of these investment banking firms, they do a lot of traditional banking. Yeah. So if you win this kind of money, we're doing psycho-cybernetics now. You want to spread this around. So if any particular institution ended up in some kind of financial difficulties, which you could not know or, until it happens, you spread it around. So, buy some gold, put some money in different countries, buy real estate very carefully, find someone that can, a lot of lottery people get screwed because they take advice from friends that don't know what the hell they're talking about. So this is psycho-cybernetics now. Psycho-cybernetics. What I would do, this is not a recommendation. This is psycho-cybernetics. Self, what would you do? I would get a hold of my family attorney. Attorneys, I almost decided, I took the LSAT, the law school admission test. I took the medical college admission test, scored highly on it, I'm told. I took the GRE, the graduate record exam. These are all tests you take when you graduate from college. Similar like the SAT you took before you went to college. After you graduated high school or junior year or senior year, whatever. So I was not very academic coming out of high school, but I became very academic in college. Thank God. Yeah, because I was, total mush going into college. But I bared down, studied. I developed a reputation with some of the faculty in Union College, and they appreciated my tenacity to do things. Testing, measuring. As a being trained as a scientist.
It's 2:00.
Until I took a left turn and started uh, taking all the biology classes I could possibly take. So I'd have enough biology so medical schools would consider me enough biology trained so that they'd accept my transcript, But it turns out I scored very high on the MCAT because they wanted, and I remember the kids that I went to school with, they didn't want, that's the class that only had like 8 students in it. Yeah, people didn't want to take biochem. It was too difficult. Every word is this big. I mean, there's a pill that I take. It's a biochemical pill. It's called hydrochlorothiazide. Hydrochlorothiazide is a big word. Most people cannot spell. You have to know how to spell these words because you have to write reports and take tests and look at answers and, remember things. Well, you have to know how to pronounce them in my book. And you have to know how to spell them, in my opinion. And that's how I learned all these big words. Yep. I'm the guy that can read the back, of the box of Sudafeds with all the different chemicals that are in there. Pseudoephedrine hydrochloride. Oh, I've taken a bunch of those. That's a relatively big word. Yeah. Pseudoephedrine hydrochloride. I mean, yeah. A 12-hour pill is 120 milligrams. Time released over 12 hours. Yeah. My hydrochlorothiazide pill is 12.5 milligrams. Little tiny blue capsule. It's also known as a water pill. All right, where'd my photos go? So we were doing psychocybernetics. I think that is a beautiful way of describing why I play around with these stupid spreadsheets. Because it's just imagine. I made this in a very presentable. I mean, look, this looks very like official. It's not official. It's Jimmy. This is strictly Jimmyisms. How did I get 308,600,000? Well, I looked at a lot of prior lotteries, and the ratio between the lump sum and what the lottery officials say is the estimated jackpot. I compared the two, and it was around 43.65%. That's why you see 43.65. If you multiply 707 by 43.65, you should get 308. Let's try it. Yeah, what the heck? Clear it. 707. Let's just put it there. All right. All right. Times 0.435. That's because it's 43.65%. It's a ratio equals 308,605,000. What was on this? 308 million, and I rounded. Okay. So I rounded off, I guess. Yeah, I rounded to, you can see it's almost like to the nearest 100,000. Because do you really care? when we're just doing psycho-cybernetics and we're just playing around. You want to multiply, do all this decimal stuff, we end up with 308,505,237. Yeah, really? I mean, you're just twisting your tongue because it's just it's a silly number. Just say 308,600,000. What's 100,000 among friends? Just playing. Anyway, so that's the. If you want the jackpot, according to the back of the what do you call it? The back of your slip that you fill out if you do. It says you got to give lottery officials 15 days from the draw date before you can get any of this jackpot money, this big money. And so if you're going to get the lump sum or the annuity, it's a 29-year, 30-payment annuity. And when I say 29 years, because that 10,641,000, they give that to you day one. They credit your account when you present your ticket, and they verify your ticket. They verify it and check all the serial numbers and all this stuff. If you were to get a wedding ticket, you have to protect it. It's a huge amount of money in this little stupid little flimsy ticket. Put it in a Ziploc bag. Put it in some kind of a watertight baggie so that even if you get in a flood where you have to swim, you know what? That's not going to get wet. Silly as it may sound, I have in this magical envelope here, with prior printed schedules, all psycho-cybernetics, folks. And what do I have in plastic is a last week's not winning ticket. You don't win with this. It's it's mental gymnastics. You play for the hell of it, but I suggest you don't, because you're just donating to the education fund. You're not going to win it, so why kid yourself? But if someone did win this, we don't know, because we won't know until July 21, which is tomorrow, because we're already into today. We're already into Monday, and it's 2 a.m. I've been yakking around here for an hour and 3 minutes. Speaking of Scotty Scheffler, and anyway, the U.S. Open. We talked about all right, what's going on here? We're gonna duplicate this, but I'm going to crop one of these. Crop. And I don't want it to. I want to be freeform. I just want to get rid of that. Didn't I say freeform? You have to go full screen, unfortunately. There's some rules. In order to grab the handle, bring it over, get the FedEx points. You have to do this a little bit. The Open, what happened to the? I chopped off the T. Oh well. The Open. We carry the best 18. So if you look at this, you see, See, that makes me mad. I mean, how complicated it is. Just go to ESPN, touch that, and copy this. Oh, see, I want the open. So we'll come over here, getting a little digital training here. And bring over the crop lines, the open. There you go. And tied for 18th. We'll go down that far, so it's a nice, almost square. Then I'm going to go to the picture. And go to the recently saved. There we go. And I'm going to edit this because I'm going to make it so it's black. Black with white. There you go. So you can see the prizes. You can see a little highlighting almost with Scotty Scheffler tied for 4th. He and Tommy Fleetwood. He's a British subject, so he's used to playing in that hard ground and thin grass, thin-bladed grass. Where Scotty's used to playing on, carpet, grass carpet. I mean, the grass is manicured to such a degree. When you play over there in Scotland and Ireland and all that stuff, the ground is hard. The ball rolls like crazy. You got winds, rain. The weather is actually perfect for most of the golf, except for windy. 14 to 20 mile an hour winds moving around. You can see the wind gauges and so on. Anyway, Scotty climbed up. He won last year. He only could get to 4th place this year. So he and Tommy Fleetwood tied for 4th at -7. And they got $827,000. They are professionals. So if they're not going to win, they play for money. Winning gets the most money, but if they do receive those checks and they take them. The caddy gets like 10 or 15%, 10, 12. If you got a real high winning golfer, I think it's like 10%. So if you're the caddy for Ryan Fox, he won at -9. He snuck up there and won that thing. He gets $3.2 million. He has to pay tax on $3.2 million. His caddy gets $320,000 if it's a 10% caddy arrangement. I was just pulling that out of my fanny. But Scotty won like $65 million one year, so that means the caddy made $6.5 million. That ain't bad for caddying, your best friend, so to speak, because they play together all the time, caddy and golfer. It's an important position for a golfer to have a good caddy. I'm going to throw this away because it makes me mad that the T on THE is missing. Look at that. Yeah, I'm going to just trash this. Yeah, no. Notice I have with the day and date, I have this little etching I put in there, the youtube.com/@FAU4U. We broadcast by streaming and via other means. We do the same with Facebook. They've been dropping out lately, so I put up a notice to my Facebook friends that it looks something like this. It says, Jimmy's going live. I'm going live today within the hour. And then I just type it youtube.com/@FAU4U. And then I have the same handle for Facebook. And I just put a dot between them. And I just say, number one there, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Number one, to the friends of Jim Wilson's Facebook live broadcast. We are going live this hour on Facebook and YouTube. Use our handle at FAU for you with YouTube and with YouTube. And you'll end up with youtube.com/@FAU for best live broadcast. And I say that because Facebook has been dropping out. I mean, I got into basically the whole podcast business with Facebook Live. Now they don't even want to talk to me. And you can't talk to anybody. So they're dropping me out. I'm not fulfilling one of their requirements, probably because I don't have enough followers for them to record the data. But I pay up. I pay YouTube like $22 a month to be able to do this broadcasting on them. Plus I have access to a bunch of YouTube stuff. Yeah. So this is a notice I post along with this notice. My disclaimers and disclosures. But I just talk about the internet. I basically say I don't get paid anything for talking about any of the stuff that I diddle with here. I don't get paid by Apple because I happen to use their iPhone. I love their iPhone, but they don't pay me anything. I have this iPad, it's just spectacular. I got a MacBook Pro there, that's spectacular. All these are old iPads. I use this as an elapsed timer, if you will. And I use this one over here as this is the correct time. It's 2:16 a.m. and 40 seconds. This is to the nearest minute. This is to the nearest second. That's it. So I have a soundboard over there from Rode, the Rodecaster Duo. Just took a sip of coffee. Got my 20-ounce cup of coffee. Anyway, it was pretty exciting watching the soccer. So many people were excited, Daniel came over, and Marilyn and Daniel and I watched the soccer. 2 solid hours, plus 20 minutes of referee time. Plus it's 90 minutes, plus it was 30 minutes of two 15-minute periods. So you'd switch fields, If you have an hour and a half plus a half, that's 2. With 2 solid hours of soccer. That's a lot of running around, I can tell you. And it was Argentina got schooling. It was such a dominant. When Argentina watches that game, they'll watch the game tomorrow or the next day. The coach is going to require that they see how they got beaten. They got destroyed. They took no shots at the goal. For the whole game. It was 20 shots to 0. And for one reason or other, the shots got blocked. Except for one. It was 0-0 and they went into overtime, and Spain, I think in like 4 minutes into the first portion of the overtime, and they maintained that 1-0 for the rest of the overtime and basically won the match. But if you just watch because they were wearing, it seems like red and black, and the cameras was wide angle, and you could just see the way these guys passed the ball around, so forth. It had to be 75% of the time they were offensively trying to make goals. And 75% of the time, Argentina was trying to defend their goal. This was always on the offensive side of the field for Spain. And, a couple of times the ball came down, and it was scary when they did, because they can be an explosive team, and all of a sudden, boom, they got a goal. 1 minute to go. Or would get a goal and it's tie it up. It's just, when it's 1-0, it's anything can happen. Well, it's just the one goal, Almost every different kind of shot was, taken and blocked. It's really quite an interesting experience. I've never seen such a victory, at however low scoring. You can't get any lower than 1-0. That's about the bottom. But if you watch every other element of the game, Spain totally dominated the entire game. I don't know what are the vocabulary words to use. It was a complete domination of the game. Albeit, the score could have been 15-0. They took back like 4 goals. It should have been 5-0. One of them was like, it was offsides. Give me a break. The guy ran down there all by himself. And if you look at the videotape, it's really a shitty call, in my opinion. They waited till the ball hit the back of the net before they see the player encroaching on what would be considered offsides. And you should be measuring that from the time the ball breaks the plane of the goal. It depends on what the rule book says. In football, in USA football, American football, when the ball breaks the plane of the goal, it's a touchdown. And I would imagine when a soccer ball breaks the plane of the soccer, it gets by the goalie, doesn't have to hit the net in the back. There's nothing that says that has to hit the net in the back. The goalie could be inside the goal and hit the ball back out of the goal, and it's still a goal because the ball crossed the plane of the goal post. Doesn't have to hit the net. Now, if FIFA professional rules are different than that, then shame on me. But I like to. They should have been 2-1 victory, but and I'll bet there'd be a lot of people looking at the scoring of that. It took at least 3 or 4 goals back. I wasn't writing it down, but you can watch you can watch the game. A lot of people recorded it. I think I did. So, you could certainly download it, from your cable company's, what do you call it? Quite a game. I have witnessed a lot of soccer through the lens of a camera, telephoto, and wide angle, and just watching the game, sitting on the edge of the pitch, as they call it, and sitting down cross-legged, Indian style, and I spent tens of thousands of hours sitting on the side of the pitch, shooting soccer for, NCAA events, and not FIFA, mostly NCAA, and the USA Soccer, which was U19, U18, U17, U16, all the teenagers right down to U12, and I went to Europe and we traveled 4 or 5 countries, and I shot all the matches. Tried to get every single match, so that so 190 kids that traveled in this big, beehive of, it was 100, I think 100, I'm going to say 190 kids and 15 or 20 parents and 25 coaches and Kodak. They called me Kodak. Although I was shooting digital, they just called me Kodak. My Canon camera had a Kodak imager. They actually called me Kodak. One of the coaches said, "Hey, Kodak, get over here and take a picture of it." Give me some respect. Mr. Kodak to you. They did. They called me Kodak for 2 months. It was good. It was fun. And they had these people, Mr. Miller and company. I think Bill Miller. We were going to make an arrangement where Marilyn and I would go, and Marilyn would, supervise the parents, because sometimes the parents would not follow their kids around, and the tour had it that someone would, go with them in the what do you call it, the bus for the tours through the city or wherever we were. And Marilyn, it was her, would talk on a microphone and discuss, where the bus is going and what the road is and what they're going to come up upon. And of course, this has all to be, scripted out with notes and so forth. She can do that. So she would be the tour guide for the parents that didn't necessarily want to follow the kids on every single day. And, they go to luncheons and so forth. Or they travel, or they go around with the students. Some of the parents stuck with the students like white on rice. Other parents, they went on the European vacation with their kids. They played sports, and we did the tour guide thing, which that's what someone like Marilyn would do. And he said, "Hey." So I don't know who approached who. I said, "Well, let's do it. Get one, sleeping facility for my wife and myself. You want separate boarding, room and board, room, want a separate private room. And then you provide all the food and beverage and so forth, like you do with all the students." See, I actually stayed with all the students and the coaches. I didn't have my own private room. A couple times I did. I think after a couple of days, I went to Bill and said, "Hey, I got to have my own room. I can't be sleeping, on stretchers. I need a real bed. And I want to I want to have my own bed, with my own sink, shower." And, so they just got me a hotel room as we moved from different cities. Wasn't a big deal. There was always an extra room somewhere when you're housing 190 people. Anyway, so we never got to do the husband and wife thing, but it'd pay up. Marilyn would get paid. He paid for all the room, board, transportation, and X number of dollars per day for the entertaining the parents. So maybe it's 100 hours a day, if I had to pick a number. They paid me $14,000 plus the photo, the markup on the photos. So I sold $10,000 worth of photos, and they paid me $14,000 to do the trip. He paid me $10,000 up front, $4,000 when I got off the bus, and then I made the money on the photos, and that was about $10K if I remember right. So it was a $25,000 trip for me. You know, for
It's 2:30.
let's say 2 months. So if Marilyn made 60 days, so you know she made $100 a day. That'd be $6,000. So maybe pay her $5,000 to do the tour guide stuff, and then anything else they needed somebody for. You know, helping with tickets, helping with passes, helping with the passport stuff, whatever administrative stuff needed to be done on the trip, Marilyn would help with that. And they'd pay her, let's say $100 a day. Making that up. Hey, we didn't actually get doing that, but we cybernetic. I told Bill, I said, we're ready to go. And just give me the dates and a commitment letter. And Marilyn will make sure she's available, and I'll make sure I'm available, and we will book you. You'll book her for the tour guide, and you'll book me for the photography. I'll do the similar thing. I'll put it online. I put all the pictures online the day of the events. So I had to go through, like 2,000 or 3,000 images and, pick the, I don't say the best, but the ones that struck you just by looking at them real fast, without wondering who they are, and I tried to take decent shots of every participant. It's hard to do that when you're dealing with 190 people, and I didn't have checklists. I should have, you could mark it off, and I got this one, I got that one. And every time I get someone, I'd mark it. But, I couldn't figure out who they are fast enough to actually do that. If I had an assistant, I could probably end up having that figured out. So I just winged it, And if they were in the place, I got in the photos. If they were standing around picking their noses, they didn't get in the photos. That was my rule. Get into play, and then you'll get photos. If you're going to stand around doing nothing, I'm not going to take a picture of you standing around doing nothing. Your parents going to do that. I think that's what I told everybody. I had a time where I could talk to everybody. Introduce myself and so forth. But it was great. They loved it because these hotels, the England and Sweden and Denmark and all that, they were much more internet savvy than Americans were. Now I was in the university, FAU is a 30,000, or is a 20,000 student university back then. 30,000 students there. It was 22,000 students back then. And, the internet existed, but it was, but these, in the hotels and in the coffee shops, they had internet access, and you could plug in and you could get, high bandwidth, so you could deal with photos and all this kind of crap. I don't even know today if I had to plug in somewhere, at a coffee shop, where the hell I'd go for that? Now, I know I could plug in to their router. Those people wouldn't know what I'm talking about, but show me where your internet, your router is, and all that kind of stuff. And I figured out how to plug in, but they didn't have any ports available for people to just use because they're in. Now they give you the login and the password, but that's only in the last couple of years. I was doing this 25 years ago when the lottery, Actually, when the internet was, it was alive and well over in Europe, I can tell you, because they had even things called internet cafes, and I'd go to them because I had to figure out how to get these images on my server. I had a server in my kitchen in my house. Literally, it was right underneath my desk in the kitchen in my house. The server ran 24 hours, 24/7, and stored all the pictures and had the URL and everything. That was, that was the device. When you went online to look at the photos on my site, you'd actually be connecting up to my server in my kitchen. Oh my God. I think it was a Sony computer back then. Sony, station. It was 6 inches wide and 14 inches high and 14 inches deep. And you had a monitor and all this stuff. Yeah. So I had to go to an internet cafe and upload these shots, these several hundred shots that I took earlier in the day. And I'd sit there while the photos are going up one by one, and it takes, every 10 seconds. And well, if you have 400 of them, 400 times 10 seconds adds up to a number of hours. And if it was a slow connection, it'd be 20 seconds. Shit. So one time I made friends, I bought a 6-pack of beer for a couple of the guys that were working in the public library in Denmark or something. And I said, hey, you mind? And I was photographing, the practice sessions. It wasn't actually game events. I also photographed the practices. Well, 10 o'clock, the sun is still bright in Denmark in July. You're at the top of the planet. So, 10 o'clock, they're doing 3 days. The last practice is like at 10 p.m. after dinner. Anyway, so at 10:30, I'm trying to figure out how to get these shots up on the internet onto my server and 6,000 miles away. So I tried to, I bought a 6-pack of beer, cold beer in a little 6-pack thing, and carried and meet up with these 2 guys that are, work in the public library in Denmark in one of these little cities. So I kind of waved one of them out. I said, "Is the manager here today?" So he says yes, and then the manager comes out and says, Can you come out here and just talk to me for a minute? I want to explain something to you." And I said, "For being so patient listening to me, here's a 6-pack of beer. Let me have one." So I pop open the beer. I said, "Here, take one. This is the rest are for you and whoever else might want one. Or you can have them." And I said, I'm an IT guy. And I'm a digital photographer for the USA Soccer people. They're in town, because all these buses showed up with a bunch of soccer people. I'm part of that crowd. I teach at the FAU. It's a 22,000 student university in Boca Raton. And I have a server, and I need to get these images onto my server. And I can connect to the backbone because you're a library, and you get right into the backbone. I promise you, I have no viruses. I'm not trying to kill Denmark's internet. Here's my license. You can make a copy of it. Here's my passport. This is who I am, the photo ID. I said, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not, trying to hurt anybody. I just need a connection to a fast internet, and you've got one right here. And all I got to do is take this one wire and plug it in to your router, and I'm good. And in 30, 40 minutes, I'll be out of your hair. You can lock me in while you guys are cleaning up and doing whatever you do. You lock the front door, and I'll just sit back here on a stool while I upload my stuff. Can we do that? And I finally convinced them to let me do that. The second night when I came back, they wouldn't let me do it. They must have talked to their lawyers or somebody. Said, no, we can't do it. I said, come on, I did it last night. They wouldn't let me do it the second night. So I had to go back to the internet cafe and I had to convince them to let me go into their router. I said, I can't go through your distribution. You got like 30, they have like 30, 40, 50 outlets all over this coffee shop. I said, I need to get into your router so I can go directly into your pipe. It's like a hose. The internet stuff. So I convinced just about every internet cafe to plug into their, their main, plug into the same thing the router was plugged into. So I'd be basically splitting the signal. And they weren't full every night at 10, 11 o'clock at night, so they might have 3 or 4 other people. So I would get half of the signal and the 3 or 4 people would get the other half. They wouldn't notice the degradation. But I was actually cutting into everyone else's usage. And I started giving them $20 and let me do it. What the hell? $20 US. They thought they died and went to heaven. They made a lot more money on me than they did selling coffee in the internet cafes. Anyway, so that's the lifestyles of the rich and famous, or Jimmy trying to get my images up on the internet. And you know what? Let me show you something just for the hell of it. You see right here? I'm wiggling it. You see where it says Wilson Picks? With like a, right? It's right on the A, where it says A10. Is it? No. It's over there where it says Find My. And then you look over to the left a little bit. Wilson Picks. Touch that? You can't touch it. I'm touching it. And what's up on top? 416-1100.com. This is a pretty exciting polo shot I got where the sticks click together. And the ball's down there. They're trying to get the ball. This is my wife with Jay Leno. I'm going down. You see USA Soccer, European Tour, 2002. Let me just show you this one. See this shot right here? That's my son, Daniel, in purple. And these kids are running at me from a long distance away. You can see the background is out of focus. And there's a soccer ball in there. Running after that ball. Anyway, here is the European Tour. Look at these two kids. Yeah, I love that shot. So all I got to do is touch that. And now we got all these European Tour events, United Soccer Academy matches, Gothenburg, Sweden, Manchester United, summer tour. There's a summer camp. See, they're sitting there with a flag. And, this is the girls, boys and girls stuff. I mean, the intensity, these kids, it was serious play. There's some goalies. This girl right there, the goalie. I can still remember what the positions were. It's thousands of images, 27 July, 26 July, 25 July, 22 July. Yeah, they're in order. There's a whole team, Good, the big Sweden team. Let's touch that one. I tried to get the team. There's a bunch of teams. So here's like a parent with a kid. Yeah. So, I got shots of, I was a snapping fool. I got shots like crazy. And if I could get them lined up as a team, someone's kid is here. Look at the buildings in the background. Yeah. Very cool. I'm just zooming through this real fast. They got him all these outfits. It's all part of the this whole European tour stuff. And some of the coaches, I remember that coach there. See, I'll touch this picture and make it bigger. I just not. Yeah, I remember that coach over there to the right in red.
It's 2:45.
You can see the age of there, some parents. Multiple pictures of some of this because sometimes like this kid in the middle, his eyes are closed. Here they're open, there they're closed. So you take it a few times, you know, because you want to make sure you get everyone's, because if that's your kid, you want his eyes open. You don't care if that other kid's eyes are closed. You just want your kid's eyes open. So you take, you know, digitally, you can take one face and put them on the other. They have access to all of these. If they wanted to download the prints, you know, I never took any money out of it. Well, the European tour, I made money because I printed them myself. Since then, I've got this site where, you know, the Smug Mug people, they print it. And they select the best printers on the planet. And I get like, there's the organizers just saying Noah right there, and that's his portrait. There's one of the senior coaches, staff helpers. Like you see, this is a terrible photo. This shouldn't even be on in the set. Yeah, you try to get rid of all the bad ones, but this isn't. I don't like this one either. Everyone's facing the wrong direction. 'If I were to go up on this, I have to download it and like could maybe get camera information on the cameras. Look at the ball's frozen in space. His foot's moving though. Look at his foot's blurry. The ball is frozen. And sometimes they were watching soccer instead of playing it. Yeah. Oops, out of focus. So when you see all these, this is curious, huh? They're all stepping over the ball. The ball is like behind them, yeah. This kid was hot stuff. So you try to get the good ones. But at home, there you go. How many people have looked at pictures? 26. Where's the visitor counter? How come I don't see it? I don't see the visitor counter. It should be right in here. Oh, rats. All right, let's this is live television, folks. Let me go to the bottom and make sure I'm not logged in. I was logged in to do something. Excuse me. Let me make sure I'm logged out. I can't tell if I'm in or out. Let's go to the top of the page. There we go. Seems like I'm logged in some kind of capacity. Because let's do a refresh. All right, now let's go to the bottom. I want you to see the counter. Gosh, all right. Home, James. Every one of these has a whole bunch of different galleries associated with whatever's captioned. Like youth soccer, you know, up here, this is the European tour. I told you that. Here I have some cooking stuff. Yeah, I got some NCAA conference championships. There's Jimmy, and you know, in the physical fitness thing, I scored. I was in the top 20 or something in New York State, which is a big deal. No, this account is supposed to be, and for some reason or other, it's not showing. Let me done. All right. But it's not. I've seen that before. All right. It's like 26,400,000 and something thousand. But the counter is not visible tonight. Maybe late evening. It's almost 3 a.m. Maybe they're over the weekend. Maybe they're doing something. All right, ESPN. We don't need to see that. We don't see that. Is there a software update? Let's check. And beta. That's no. No. So we're done. Basically, shut that down. Yeah, done for the evening. So I'm going to go back to, you know, what I normally do when we close out the show, as you know, is we go to right here. We started on Monday morning, and we're going to make this the entire image, and I'm going to click finish, and you're going to have a nice evening. I know you're driving from Chicago to California, and it's only midnight, yeah, or whatever, different time zones, you know. So I just wanted to, or for you basic insomniacs, you got nothing else to do, and sit up all night and listen to Jimmy talk about whatever the heck he's talking about. Give me a microphone and I can talk about. I can talk all night. I have. I've gone 4 hours. I'm not going to go 4 hours today because I got to send Marilyn off to work in a few hours. It's in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4.5 hours. I got to make her iced tea and her vitamins and her supplements and her heart medication or whatever. In the meantime, I hope you have a great Monday, and we'll talk to you for certain on Tuesday, because I'm going to have to show you how to add the next database and entry into, this statistics that we're following. It's not predictive, that spreadsheet. It's just a presentation of what balls have been picked by these machines. You know, these bouncing, what do you call it? They look like ping pong balls. They paint numbers on them, 1 through 70, I believe. And the Mega Million Ball is 1 through 24, and they're, I think, yellow. My presentation, is black and white and red and white or whatever. It's obvious that the ball on the very right-hand side of the presentation is the Mega Million Ball. And the other 5 balls are similarly colored, different numbers, of course, represent the other, when they pick out of the, so you got 2 machines. They pick all 5 numbers out of the 70 balls, one set of 70 balls, they're flying around. And then they have another machine over here with 24 balls all blowing around. And when they get all 5 of these, then the lady or someone goes over here and pushes a button, and one of the Mega Millions yellow balls shows up in the TV display. And that's what I cut and paste and put in my spreadsheet. I didn't know you could cut and paste pictures and put them in a spreadsheet, in the column, where data is essentially typed or calculated. Now the pictures can't be calculated that I know of, and there's no calculations put on this one. I'm not trying to guess what the numbers would be. There's no effort at that whatsoever. I don't even look at them to see if one number comes up more often than others. Yeah, somebody might want to do that, but I'm not interested in doing that or trying to promote that whatsoever. Strictly psycho-cybernetics. What would happen? You actually won something like that. What would you do with it? How would you split it up? What consideration should be given? How would you deal with it? What would you do on Tuesday? If all of a sudden Monday this money showed up in your account, you went up to Tallahassee and you drove back, and now you're on Tuesday morning and you got $194 million in your checkbook. What the hell are you going to do? I told Marilyn, I said, I'd like to have a check writing party and invite everybody that you're going to give money to, your relatives and your cousins and whatever, and say, we're all going to have a dinner party. It's going to start at like 2 p.m. And I'm going to have all these checks written and signed, and I'm going to hand them out to everybody and stare them in the eye and say, spend it wisely, and hand out all the checks. We're going to have a nice dinner. They're going to put those checks in their pocket, maybe hand it out after dinner or before dessert. Give a little speech, on how to behave with such a winning. What would you say in such a speech? See, it's an exercise of the brain. It's like doing calisthenics, jumping up and down. I mean, calisthenics is not something that you would do in football, baseball, whatever. But, if you're a baseball or football, you jump up and down and you bring your hands up and then you bring them down and then you bring them up, you bring them down and you jump up and down. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. We did that when we were in 6th grade, right? Well, there's no move in athletics. Tennis, golf, football, baseball, soccer, where a calisthenic move is done for any other purpose than exercising your arms and your legs and your joints and so forth. Well, psycho-cybernetics exercises your brain. So we make up these scenarios just to exercise your brain and imagining how you would deal with such a thing. Why not? It's a fun. I mean, don't count on it because it's 290 million reasons to what's not going to happen. Yeah, but what the hell? Let's play. All right, I'm done. It's 3 a.m. in about 35 seconds. I'm gonna give you I'm going to give you about 20 seconds of Epidemic Sound instrumental without me talking. So you have a great Monday. Bye bye.
It's 3 o'clock.